Welcome back to the Triple J Sports Podcast, and I'm your host, Phil Rasmussen. Excited to once again revisit this 1997 Arizona National Championship team under legendary head coach Lute Olson. Back to the NCAA March Madness run that was headed up by Miles Simon and Mike Bibby, Jason Terry, Michael Dickerson, among many other names. Back with my co-host for this running series, Bennett Davison, and our main guest today, Quinn Tebbs, joining us as a guard during that run and a part of that national championship team, and a guy with a story that goes well beyond basketball. Someone who went on a 2-year mission and joined Arizona, and in his first season as a Wildcat was a part of that national championship team, and then had a very, very interesting journey and story into his life. So along with he and Bennett, we dig back into their perspective and their experience on that 1997 championship run and basketball today. So before we jump in, as always, make sure you subscribe wherever you're watching or listening for the full episodes and clips. I hope you enjoy the episode. Thanks again to my guest, Quinn Tebbs, and for my main man and co-host on this series, Bennett Davison. Hope you all enjoy the episode.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Triple J Sports Podcast, and I'm your host, Phil Rasmussen, and I am back again for another walk down memory lane of the Arizona Wildcat men's basketball program and a revisiting of that 1997 national championship team with two more former Wildcats, our resident, consistent guest here, Mr. Bennett Davison, the orchestrator of this, and our today's guest, Quinn Tebbs, who, as we were just talking prior to the show, was very much introduced in a similar way to probably how I walked into Fresno State, with quite a bit of shock and adjustment of lifestyle. So, Quinn, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Bennett, good to have you back. Let's keep those,
as always,
noises in the background under control. You know, let's keep that.
Another good thing is I just ran into Quinn about 3-4 weeks ago at the Indianapolis Final Four, so that was also good to catch up with him face to face.
Good to run into a bunch of guys down there. Just say hi. Been a little bit.
That's always funny. The best part about those, I try to tell my wife this all the time, and I don't think, if you don't play sports, you don't get it. It's like you can not see each other for 10 years, and you just fall right back into whatever it was.
Yep.
Best part of sports, right? So let's jump in and get the audience familiar with you, Quinn. So you were a freshman in the first, your first season, getting acclimated. And the team immediately went on a run, and you touched on a few things. So tell us a little bit about your background and kind of your upbringing, and then what led you to Arizona in the first place to kind of be a part of what was a legendary run.
Yeah. So I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, just a kind of east bench of Salt Lake. And I came from here in Utah. Like, our family's known for basketball. My dad had him and two other brothers. Family of 11 kids, but 3 boys, and all three of those boys played college basketball. I had an uncle that played at Utah State, another uncle that played at BYU, who's an All-American at BYU. Then my dad also played at BYU in Westminster. So kind of had that background, just kind of knowing the Tebs name for basketball in the state of Utah. And then as we got older, we just grew up playing ball, and I had an older brother that played Division I basketball. At Weber State, had a bunch of cousins that played Division I basketball, some that played Division I baseball, some football. So a lot of, just a pretty, just kind of athletic family. I just grew up, doing the whole AAU route, and, Super League AAU, and travel all over and playing. And, that's where I was noticed by Coach Olson. Saw me play in Long Beach. And back in the day, they had a slam and jam tournament. They don't have slam and jam tournaments anymore. I remember playing against Miles in those tournaments multiple times. Those California teams and stuff. And so I played against Miles a few times, and played against JT once. He was a younger kid, played up, and I remember playing against JT one time. But it was funny. Lute Olson was there. He was looking at another kid from Utah that was playing a different gym at the same time we were. And, out in the hallways, you got the big boards that show where the different teams play. And my dad was out there looking at it, and Coach Olson asked me, he said, "Hey, Joe, this Utah team's playing." And my dad said, "Yeah, they're playing with that gym." He said, "But the best player in Utah is playing over in this other gym. You should come watch him." And, so him, Coach and my dad talked, and my dad was like, "Actually, it's my son. I'd appreciate maybe if you want to come by and take a look." And so Coach Olson said, "Yeah, I'll come take a look at him." And after the game, we played a team from LA, and I played, I think it was like Jared Henderson was on the team, Chris Johnson, who else was on that team? Jelani McCoy was on that team. We actually ended up beating them, and I had a really, really good game. I think I scored like 27 and had just a really good defensive game. And Coach Olson came up after that to my dad and said, "Hey, your son is a good player, and I'd like to recruit him." And so that started the recruiting process from that tournament. And
just took an introduction.
Yeah, still followed me through my senior year, and I ended up getting a scholarship offer to me, and that's how I ended up in Arizona. But the one thing that I liked about Arizona was I was going to serve a mission I was group Mormon, and I was going to always serve a mission. And a lot of colleges said, "Well, we can't give you a scholarship if you're going to go on a mission." But Coach O was willing to honor that. And he said, "You know what? I'll honor your scholarship. We'll hold it for 2 years." And so that was the whole, that's where, the story where I came to Arizona. I was actually the second oldest guy on the team next to Jason Lee as a freshman. So it was kind of that mentality of being on my own and living on my own and, kind of being like, I'm older than all these guys. I'm a freshman. I'm still older than all these guys. So, maybe there's a little bit level of maturity there that sometimes could be maybe annoying to some of the teammates, but just it kind of was, that life to this life and that transition. So that's how I ended up at Arizona.
Wow. So to be clear, so that basically it was like, look, I'm offering it to you. You're going to go off and do 2 years, and when you come back, the scholarship is waiting for you 2 years from now to enroll, and you pick up and go off, and that obviously just out of the gate had to have given you certainly a different sense of security and purpose when you took off to do your mission, that you had already a plan when you came back that was going to bring you back to basketball. And how common is that in the kind of in the Mormon faith and community where that happens for basketball or athletes in general, where that commitment happens prior to going on a mission?
Yeah, it happens all the time in Utah. Because obviously it's the state is a predominantly this Mormon state, LDS. It's where the center of the LDS church is here in the state of Utah. And so there's a lot of kids that will go on a mission to come back and play college sports. It's funny, BYU gets a bad rap because they're always like, "Oh, their football team. These guys are always older than everybody else." And obviously that's changing now with the whole NIL stuff, and it's a different landscape than what it was when we were playing. But it's some people look at it as like, oh, it's an advantage. I'll tell you that for me, sport, like athletically, it was a huge disadvantage. I had a really hard time getting back to what I was when I came home. I redshirted that first year to try and get back into shape and try and kind of get that level back. But for 2 years, I didn't touch a basketball for 2 years. Not even like I didn't get shots up. I didn't dribble a ball, nothing. And so you walk away from something you've done, and that's a hard thing to get back. 2 years is a long break from any sport.
That makes a ton of sense. That is you talk about knocking the rust off.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. I can't remember. I apologize. I bet you 1,000 times. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just trying to get back in shape. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just trying to get back in shape. They probably got tired of me saying sorry but again, it was a hard. You go from not playing for 2 years to the team that's going to be the eventual national champion in 1997, and the guys that you're playing with. These guys were playing with every day in practice. These are top guys in the country, the top basketball players in the nation. Having to guard Mike Dickerson every day in practice is a nightmare. Bennett, you know what Mike was. Mike D is probably the most freakish athlete. Doesn't get enough talked about that you'll ever come across. The dude was a freak, and he was strong as an ox. Mike was, and my job was to guard him every day. And I remember he used to like hold me and he'd tuck my arm and like hook me in his armpit. They wouldn't let me go. And Coach Olson get mad at me all the time. "Quinn, why are you a step behind? Why are you this and that?" I'm like, "Dude, Mike D is holding me. You try to get loose from this guy's grip. It's impossible.
Yeah.
He was trouble. Mike B he was a problem.
His nickname was Mike Diesel. He never fell on the ground. He could do. I mean, his father was Golden Gloves. He'd already been.
Oh gosh.
He was 3 years older than everyone else physically.
He was a specimen.
That's so, and so I tell this all the time. So this is the first time I've told it, but I was a freshman when Chris Jeffries was a junior, and he ended up being a first-round pick, even with a knee injury. And John Wells is my coach, and he worked with me every morning, and he got me really good at stripping, like ripping at the rim, getting the guys like taking the ball away, and I had good lateral quickness, but I was 6'7", 195 when I showed up, and maybe 205 like starting the season, then lost weight. And Chris was like 230. I would guard him just like you would say with Dickerson, and I would have time after time where he would drive and I'd strip him at the rim, and a lot of times it'd be clean, sometimes a foul, but if I got him clean, it would always piss him off, and he would yell at me like, "Don't have to foul me." And then the next time down, he would bowl his way in, drop his shoulder into my chest, knock me 4 feet back, and dunk on me. And it would always be like, "Don't do that again." And it was always this constant like, God, I got a long way to go. I really have, like just the battle. So I hear you on the Dickerson. It's a surreal experience to be in your shoes at that point, going up against those guys and trying to figure out where you fit in. But you get the micro wins, right? Like where if you find a way to get a stop, confidence.
Yeah,
and
see, I would
years.
I was always like, I was in the gray squash as a redshirt that whole year, and so I was constantly the guy, going against these guys. And I mean, I rotate between Mike Dickerson, Miles Simon, Mike Bibby, and Jason Terry. I mean, those are the 4 guys that was like those are 4 guys I'm having to guard every day between the 4 of them. I mean, all 4 of those guys were All-Americans. Yeah, this is not an easy job, but again. What you learn from it is, you learn a lot about toughness. You learn a lot about just showing up and competing every day. And I think that's one thing that I always did. I mean, I wasn't like a guy that didn't work hard. I was a guy that worked hard. I mean, like we ran sprints, I was always pushing, to try and beat everybody. I think only Mike and JT are the 2 guys that could beat me. In the sprints, I could beat you. Well, yeah, me and JT and Mike D, we were the 3 guys. I was always competing with those guys and running and stuff. And I remember we'd go out and like do the preseason stuff, and they get mad like, "Quinn, slow down! Quinn, slow down! So we don't have to run so hard. Just slow down." I'm like, I got to do something to show that I'm working hard here, guys. That's the one thing I got. One thing I got is my speed.
Well, we also do that little mile around the mall, and they take shortcuts. They were cheating the whole time.
Oh yeah, it's BS, man. And they come back and like 3 times. I'm like, there's no way. Like this guy's coming in 3 minutes before me. What is going on?
and barely out of breath.
And me being, the Molly missionary, I'm not cheating or cutting anything. I'm doing everything right down the line. Got to be honest. Honorable guy.
Well, you learn pretty quickly that the talent separates too, right? Like, what coaches will put up with from the guy that they know is gonna be the one carrying them home in crunch time.
Yep.
There's variations. You heard the saying, right? I treat everybody the same, but not everybody equal. Type of deal. Like, for sure.
And it was those are like the memories I have. It's just like the practices and being with the guys. It was such a good group of guys. Like there weren't huge egos on the team. I mean, there were a few egos, but nothing that was like
there's never like down talking or punking anybody.
Yeah, like everybody was pretty everybody was pretty. We were all good with each other. We were always.
And we also didn't go on trad parties. We didn't go get in trouble. We weren't they stopped checking on us after 3 weeks in the classes because we just showed up to class. And it was like, hey, these guys are here. They just stopped checking on us because we showed up every day.
Yeah, but we had a lot of fun. Like we screwed around a lot, like joked around a lot. We're easy going, and so it was just a good easy. It was just a good fun group of guys to be around.
Yeah, just like these guys.
So,
okay.
With the season as it gets started, and you're put into, this kind of freshman fire, so to speak. Even as an older guy, you're still like this is adjusting to the the college level of playing, and you're not doing it against guys that, maybe at the time, obviously, at the time you probably don't know what kind of subsequent professional careers they're going to have, but they're good, and that the potential there. What is that, like, the preseason to the early part of the season? What was your expectations of yourself, and then how did you kind of see, like, your role and the perspective of what was happening within the realm of the team and all those personalities meshing? Because there's an element when you are playing 20 some odd minutes a game and you're Miles Simon maybe playing 30, and you're thinking about how many shots am I going to put up, how many points am I going to score, how am I going to lead, but you focus on certain things. And then the guy that's trying to figure out his role in the middle, or Bennett trying to figure out where do I fit in to set screens and rebound. And if you're playing less minutes in a row, you can observe things differently. So what was your observation of, like, the chemistry, the team, and its overall evolution of that preseason segment that leads into the beginning of the regular season?
Well,
Quinn, let me preface this. Quinn, just like you were saying, just to kind of add on to you coming after a 2-year mission. I mean, even me coming from the junior college level where we went 66 wins and 2 losses, and was playing in the summer leagues. Even that transition from me being in shape to coming to Arizona was a huge step up. It was just like, from the first block, second place, third place on the Olympic stands, junior college is here, and then you got Division I, and you're set the level. I mean, even for me, it was a huge adjustment. Just the size of the arenas, just to the cardiovascular, to the more shots being made, to all those little details. It is tougher.
Well, and it's interesting. Like, you have, and again, you have Division I, right? You have, like, junior college, Division I, and you have, like, the smaller schools. But again, like, you have Division I basketball, but then you have at that Arizona basketball,
top 25, top 50.
It was a different level of basketball, right? And so, I remember my first time putting on shoes, to play, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have not played in 2 years, and I'm putting on shoes. I'm walking down the floor. I'm going out, I walked out with, Jason Terry, Mike Bibby, and Mike D out of the locker room. And again, I've never played these guys. I mean, I've never seen Mike Bibby play. I mean, this is back before the internet, right? The internet wasn't, I think the internet started like my freshman year when I started getting like something, but before that, you didn't see these guys play. So I'm like,
yeah, we got a Hotmail account in our at the Wildcat study hall.
Coach sent me a VHS tape to Brazil to watch. You had VHS tapes. Like, you just never saw these guys, so you kind of don't know what to expect. And then you start playing these guys, and you're like, holy crap, I've got a long way to go. And my wind is garbage because I've been running for 2 years, and so it's not just like losing like all like your skill, but it's also getting back into shape and getting back into like getting your wind back and everything. And so initially, before preseason, it was just like, okay, I've got to focus on getting back into shape so I can at least like run up and down the floor with these guys. And then once I get my wind back, then I got to start working on shooting. I got to start working on the biggest thing, the hardest thing it is to get back when you take off is just your feel of ball handling. Ball handling is the thing that goes away. And so it's just getting comfortable with the ball in your hands again. And that's a process. But my mindset was, I've got to get in shape, and I've got to be able to show up, because I know I'm not going to play, so I'm going to redshirt to get back in shape, but I've got to be able to offer something in practice. So, we go against these guys and prep these guys to play. I've got to be able to, like, when I defend them, I've got to defend them hard. I can't back off and be easy. I want to make it as hard on them as I can. So, again, they're more prepared for the games. Because, again, if I'm not showing up and, you have the guys that are, practicing against these guys, and we're not showing up, what help are we to them? We're no help to them. So it's just like, what can I do? What things can I do to benefit the guys that are going to be playing the game? What can I do to help prepare them and benefit them?
So you were focused on that, and that's one of the things that talk about a lot on the show, right? Is finding a way to impact the team regardless, and having to go through the ego kind of evolution that you all have. Part of what makes you a good competitive athlete is the ego that drives you to succeed, and then you reach a point where you realize that ego is not going to be satisfied in the same way it was at a certain point. Like when you were in high school, now it's going to be a different version, but becoming a great teammate and contributor and is finding a way to impact the team and their winning ability in ways that don't show up in the box score each night, but show up in ways that your teammates see and that they appreciate. So when you were looking at the team and watching and going through practices, what did you think of the team going into those first couple of games? Like, how good did you think that you guys would be? I mean, Bennett, you two are new. You guys are both basically starting from a place where, yes, you're at college, you know the guys are good, but you don't actually know how good you are compared to the rest of the college basketball world until you start playing other teams.
I think it was. I didn't realize like how good we were. I mean, until we started playing. Like early in the season, I remember JT actually was the one that started playing for it because Miles couldn't play, and we started off really well. I think we beat Carolina in that first.
We also beat Utah in the pond.
Utah at the pond. We beat Carolina in the tip-off classic, and I think after you beat guys like Vince Carter and Jameson, and you've got Keith Van Horn at Utah with Andre Miller, and you beat those kind of teams, and you start thinking like, hey, we're pretty decent, and so we had a really good start to the season, and the Miles came back, and I think there was a little bit of a dip, but I think it's just getting used to playing with, changing up.
After playing 6 or 7 games without the key player, and then he comes back.
And again, I mean, JT was not Miles, and Miles was not JT. I mean, there's something to be said there. I mean, JT was National Player of the Year his first year he started, and he's our sixth man. I mean, you have Jason Terry as your sixth man come off the bench. That should tell you a pretty good team. The JT comes off the bench, and so there was a lot of but as the season went on, I mean, there was apparent that we were good and we could play with anybody. But we had a lot of ups and downs. I mean, what we finished the Pac-10 that year, Bennett? Weren't we like 5th in the Pac-10? Did we finish 4th or 5th in the Pac-10 that year? I can't remember. But again,
you said who finished 4th?
In the Pac-10, we would have finished 4th, 5th.
It could have been because like UCLA was dominant, USC wasn't, Arizona State wasn't, Washington State wasn't, maybe Oregon.
But I remember there was a lot of questions.
Maybe Stanford.
Yeah, but there's a lot of question about our team going into the tournament because I mean we didn't finish at the top of the Pac-10. I mean I think we were 4th. I think we finished. So, I don't think I knew that we were good, but didn't realize like how good we were yet. Because again, we were a little bit up and down. That last.
Like I said, we definitely didn't know how good we were. No. That was official. We had no idea.
Yeah,
I was like, "God, you guys."
But I knew we were good because we beat quality teams all year, so I knew we were good, but didn't realize like how good.
But we weren't consistent. By no means were we consistent. Did we have a same kind of flow? It seemed like watching Arizona this year, the 2026 with that team, Tommy Lloyd and them. It felt like they had the same consistency, the same control of the game. Whereas we were just ups and downs, and good games, and bad quarters, good quarters.
Did you, in your mind, as you're watching this unfold in the season, and you guys are heading through, what memories in the season jump out at you the most, Quinn and Bennett? You can add in on any that come from Ken, but I'd love to know from your perspective, like specific memories, like to kind of give you like a reference, like early in my freshman year at Fresno, we were in the preseason NIT. We beat a Montana State team at home, and then we beat USC at home, and I was like, oh, okay. And I knew we had NBA draft picks, and then we're on a plane to New York right after 01, so right after 9/11, and I'm in New York, ground zero, and I had a surreal moment at shoot around where we're in, Madison Square, sitting in shoot around, and I'm looking over, and there's Dick Vitale talking to Tark, doing a pregame, and I'm going, what the hell am I doing here? Like, this doesn't register for me. We're about to play Michigan State and Syracuse. I was playing high school basketball like 5 months ago. I'm a little out. Like, I had some moments like that where I was just like, did you have some throughout the course of the season?
I did. I mean,
stuck out to you.
I did. I remember that tip-off classic where we played North Carolina. I remember playing that game where, and again, I mean, I knew who Vince Carter was because we were pretty much the same age growing up, so I'd heard about him. AAU. He was back from North Carolina, but I remember playing that game, and I remember people talking about like how this guy just jumped out of the gym and whatever. But I remember there was a play in that game where Ed Cota was bringing the ball up the floor. He's on the left side of the floor, and he threw this lob. He was behind half court, and he threw this lob to Vince Carter, and it was a ball thrower. Was like, oh, that's going out of bounds. It's way too high. I'm telling you, I wish I could find it someplace. There's no place where the thing is on film. Vince Carter caught that thing at the top right corner of the backboard. Can you remember this lob, Bennett, in that game that Vince caught? And he caught that thing.
It was probably underneath it.
Yeah, and the fact that he caught it and he dunked it, I was like, what am I doing on the floor with these guys? It was absolutely the most athletic thing I think I've ever seen to this point in my career. It was unbelievable, and I think it's just like, you see Vitale talking to Coach Olson, same thing. You see these guys that you grew up watching on TV your whole life. I mean, the people we met. I remember going to UCLA and meeting Coach Wooden. And remember how Coach Wooden would sit and watch practices and talk. He talked to us after practice. It's just things like that. It's like I'm sitting here meeting John Wooden. I remember our second year. I remember going to practice at in Chicago, and we took the floor when the Bulls were on the floor practice on their practice board. We took the floor.
Yeah, Dennis Rodman and Scottie Pippen and all them.
Jordan, Rod, and Pittman, Phil Jackson. They're all right there, and we're just sitting on the sideline. I remember we got to the locker room. We're like looking around their lockers and stuff, and like
Steve Kerr got us in there. Yep.
Yeah, Steve Kerr and Bushler got us in for that practice. But it's just like it's the people you come across, the people you meet, that you're just like, what is like? I'm living a dream right now. What's going on?
Yeah. If Steve was a real legend, he would have gotten you guys all swag. I mean, Steve is a legend, but
that's Steve Kerr. Tommy Lloyd's real legend is the greatest player in NBA history. Not Michael Jordan.
Steve Kerr is his Michael Jordan. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty good, Tommy.
Yeah. We also had another game. We were playing against Oregon State at home. I think we were up by 12 points, and we put in Josh Passer got a few minutes in there, and Corey Benjamin, who had Vince Carter hops him.
Yes.
He tried to do with Josh Passer, who was kind of like, he tried to do the right thing, tried to take a charge. And next thing you know, he took a charge, closed his eyes, and next thing you know, there's 2 points. He just got jumped over at home. So. Never forget, Josh.
Oh, that's great.
There are so many moments that I could like. Bennett, you don't get to fall in this category because you were springy and bouncy, and I know you dunked on plenty of people, but
Jelani McCoy yammed on me last time. I got this block, and no, I don't. I got dunked on it.
Hey, here's something for you. I'll tell you one thing I remember about that season. I remember when we were in the tournament, right? When we made the Final Four. When Nike came to us with the foam posits.
Yeah,
the blue moon shoes, right? And they only had so many pairs, and some guys were like, I'm not wearing that. There's so much like, and I took a pair, right? And so I still have those foam posits. And I remember like I couldn't play, but at Arizona, Coach Olson with the redshirts, he would dress us. We'd warm up every game and stuff like that. And so we had that open practice, which just kind of turned into like a glorified, dunk line, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Bennett confirmed. I used to be able to jump. I mean, second place in the Midnight Basket dunk contest. A lot of people don't. Bennett robbed. I thought I should have won, but Bennett robbed me on it. I remember, I'm like, when other people see me, I'm gonna do some stuff with this layup line. And so I started throwing down like 360, little windmill, little double pump reverse and stuff. Like, who is this? This little short white guy doing these dunks with these composites? I had people offered me thousands of dollars for my shoes. It was crazy. And so stuff like that, you remember things like that were, I can get to play. I'm like, there's 40,000 people here at this practice. I can do a little something. I can do a little something fun, have some fun with it.
That's awesome. Yep. I always just say like I had good practice hops and not great game hops. So, There was something about the sprinting and running and the exhaustion. I didn't keep it, but I could do the same thing. Like layup lines, I could do some stuff. I just didn't have the same explosion, but yeah, like Bennett or no one has any card level. Yeah, I hear you. I think it's cool. Those are great memories. Did you throughout the season, as you guys approached the tournament, and now you're in the tournament, what was that experience like? And talking about as a guy watching it, what your impressions of, obviously Bennett, Mike, Jason, Dickerson, like kind of going down the list, like what Miles, like when you look at like the teammates that you played with, do you have like some takeaways as a guy playing with them that stood out that like, hey, that's why they ended up being successful, or what made them different that you kind of identified having to go up against them and playing and obviously and not playing as many minutes, but really being focused on what you did against them in practice?
I think that the impression I took is like we were never that team that we never got like we never our butts never got puckered, right? We were always like just nobody ever got like tight.
There was never a situation where you get overwhelmed.
Yeah. And again, I remember the first game of the tournament. That was the scariest game. Was that first game against South Alabama? Being down 10 to them was like being down 25 to anybody else. And so, I remember that game thinking, in that going into the fourth quarter, like, oh no, here's going to be another thing. Like, oh, we knew these guys weren't what they were, and all the fans back home that were not on the bandwagon, that were off the bandwagon, were like, oh, they're going back and be like in the paper, oh yeah, we were right. These guys, they weren't.
They'll be good. They'll be great next year.
They'll be great next year, but they weren't ready this year, and so, but the one thing, it was just we went in every game just kind of loose and ready to play. I don't think we understood where we were and what we were trying to do, but I don't think at the same time we really understood what we were doing, And again, guys had great confidence. I mean, Miles had a ton of confidence, and he had great leadership. JT, ton of fun, always loosey goosey, but always he had great confidence. Bibby, fantastic confidence as a freshman. You'll get a lot of freshmen that will carry that confidence that way. Bennett and AJ.
Mike Dickerson was our silent assassin.
What was that?
Mike D was our silent assassin. He would be in the locker room. You wouldn't even know he's there because he's so quiet.
It's funny. I sat next to Mike D. So on our bus, probably the same with you guys. You always sat in the same spot on your bus ride, right? You had your bus spot, and so I sat next to Mike D. And so I got to know Mike D a lot. We had a lot of deep conversations and stuff. And Mike D, just the kind of this quiet, most soft-spoken guy. But man, that guy, I'll tell you, that guy, he's the one guy I think probably like Arizona basketball lore that doesn't get talked about enough. But if people that know him will tell you, like that guy was special. Mike D was, But again, just everybody just had just so much like self-confidence, but also had the ability to stay loose. If that makes sense.
What was, like, to me, one of the things that great coaches have the ability to do, and the winning results are a product of this, and you can kind of see it, is the ability to encourage environments to do that, where they're holding guys accountable, but allowing them to live within that range of who they are as individuals, and not constraining them to where they're no longer comfortable to be great, right? Like whatever that is. How do you think Lute Olson was able to do that? Like what was his approach that stuck out to you that allowed all those personality types and all that confidence to exude, while also coming into a film room and being like, that was terrible, this needs to get better, or whatever the sessions were like?
I also think the coaching staff also helped. Let me like with the coaching staff, we had Coach Evans, who came in and razzed everybody. He was kind of like the major recruiter. He was the Carnival Barker. He was the Don King. And then we had Coach Johnson. He's just like, yeah, you guys are never good enough, and just cranky, always pissed off. And then we had Rosborough. Hey guys, is there anything I can do for you? He's like the friendly neighbor. He got a cup of sugar for you, and then that allowed Coach Olson to go off and Coach Roz, and we all still talk to Coach Roz and everything, and have a group message. And Coach Olson allowed it, and he has a system. Every day he's got his folded up piece of paper. He folds it out. He's boom. And we're giving him this 7 minutes on the board. Darren, get those things up there. It was a well-oiled machine. You can't do that with just kind of winging it, and hopefully, and just having a system and having something to go to every single day, and even taking those things and then coming up and say, hey, when you're chasing someone on a fast break, don't come down and swipe at the ball. Come up and swipe at the ball. Yeah. The referee's the ball is going to be dribbling. You're going to foul on top of the hand. Swipe up. Just little things like that. And it was like, man, that actually worked twice in the game, and that was 2 possessions. So all those little things.
I think one thing that Coach Olson was really good at is he was good at setting up like the structure, right? He was structured. He had a system. He was structured. And so you tell that kid, like, you're not supposed to wear pajamas to school. Anyways.
They have no idea how lazy these kids are. They come to school with their Buc-ee's pajamas and T-shirts and Crocs, man.
But Coach O, he had
I'm not talking to you guys, the other kids.
Yeah, he had an ability to, he had a system and he had structure, but he let you play within that structure. He let you be you within the structure. He set the structure, but then he would want you to be what, he recruited you because you had a set of abilities and talent. And he didn't want to micromanage that talent, control that ability. He said, okay, here's my structure. Now within that structure, you be you and do what you do as a player within that structure. And that's where Coach Olson, I think, excelled. Coach Olson had an ability. I think what Coach Olson did too is the type of players he recruited. He always recruited like good guys, like guys that have, like, you can talk to any, like, look at all the Arizona guys. Any Arizona guy you talk to is going to have personality. Is going to be just like a good, fun guy to talk to, solid guy. Just like, that's the person you see like that. Oh, that guy over there, that's a great guy over there. That's every Arizona basketball player. I mean, I can sit down and talk to John Ash for 20 minutes, like I can sit down and talk to Steve Kerr for 20 minutes. Like Coach O, he recruited across, like, he wanted all his teams to know each other too. So, like, I had great memories of, like, the old guys coming back and playing pickup ball with us, guys that were on our teams, but we knew them like they were on our team. And I think that's what Coach Olson liked. He wanted to intertwine, and he recruited guys that kind of had those same type personalities. I mean, you look at Richard Jepson's personality, look at Jason Terry's personality, Channing's personality, Bennett, JT. I mean, you go on and on. Just, they're all just such good, solid dudes that, not giant egos, but very confident in who they are and what they are. And I think that's what allowed, Coach Olson's his system to work. He wanted guys that had confidence, that knew who they were, that were willing to accept structure, but also within the structure, go do what you do. And that's, I think, where Coach Olson excelled.
But that's really not only a key point, but I think the part that you just touched on that I think doesn't get talked about enough with the differences in coaches is you can bring those guys in, but if you then beat down their confidence, even the confident guys can have that stripped from them. If you keep putting them in bad positions where they're uncomfortable or they're not in their best position to be successful, or you don't help them figure out their value on the team, you can see guys with immense confidence and watch it be stripped from them. And there are coaches, there are a reason there are good coaches and bad coaches and good teams and bad teams. And that art of giving a guy the freedom and maintaining his confidence is one of the things that there was an era of coaching not too far from when we all were playing where that was a part of what happened. A lot of guys' confidence was stripped. And the world is different today with that.
We've all had bad coaches, right?
Like, nobody, anybody who's played for one of those coaches would say, like, I was confident, but that confidence didn't translate because I was being beaten down. And so to play for someone who does that, like, that's always the thing I used to say about Hart, too. Like, the most confidence instilling personality ever, and when you feel like you're confident and then the coach believes in you, that changes your ceiling. Like, it raises your ceiling of what you can accomplish. Did you see moments in the season where you guys struggled? Played poorly. I mean, got kicked around, and then how he responded or how the staff responded.
Yeah, I cried in my car after the UCLA game.
Hey,
all by myself.
I remember that trip. I remember our final road trip to Northern California where we lost to Stanford and Cal. And I remember, I think that was probably the low point of the season for going into finish the season without just losing. And, I remember at the Cal Palace, Ben talked about Coach Johnson. We touched on this earlier, but I remember Coach Johnson, he wanted to fight me in the locker room. And he picked me for the loss because I was, screwing around on the gray squad. You're out here dicking around on the gray squad. We're losing because you're not helping these guys prepare Quinn and da. He get in my face, and I'm like, you're blaming me for a loss. I didn't even play this game, Coach. I remember I stood up and put my arm around him. I said, Coach Jay, relax. And he shrugged me off, and he put up like he's going to fight me. And I remember Jason Lee, our one senior guy, he's like, Coach Johnson, what are you doing? And I remember Coach O yelling at him in the locker room, Phil. That was like the low point of the season. Is Coach Jay wanted to beat me up in the Cal Palace. I think for us just finishing off that regular season.
Go punch a window or something, Coach.
Yeah. I was painting the fence. Sorry, that's why I've got red on my shirt.
Dude, I didn't play him. Coach.
But I just remember
afraid to yell at the guys that miss shots. You got to come at me.
On here. I'm getting blamed for the Stanford and Cal loss. What's happening right now? Coach G wants to fight me. But
Gene, no more elbows at your. Yeah, we had an eclectic mix of everyone, and then Donnell's like, oh, what's going on here? Why is everybody upset? Oh,
Donnell is like, but yeah, it was just. I think just finished out the regular season with those losses. I think it was probably the biggest down, and I think that's probably why maybe a lot of people didn't expect us to do what we did in the tournament because we didn't finish the regular season out strong. We went out on a down, right? So I think it was a shot.
And then Utah and North Carolina wins helped us maintain that because we could have easily been pushed down to the 8th and 7th and 8th right before the tournament because of those two losses.
Yep. And so, but again, but just to be a part that run in that tournament, I don't understand why that hasn't gotten more. There has been more eyes on that in a 30 for 30 or something. Because there's no run like that run we made. There is no run. Nobody's ever made 3 number 1 seeds. Nobody's made a run like that. We're the only ones to do it. I'm surprised there's been more eyes on that, and that's gotten more attention over the years. People know about it, but they don't really
the West Coast
what it was. What was that, Bennett? I missed what Bennett said.
Saying that you looked at the tournament saying that we're the last team to win it west of the Mississippi. I know it's crazy. That's 2/3 of the United States with Alaska and Texas and everything else, and nobody even talks about it.
Well, next year's going to be 30 years.
30 years. Well, we're working on making the story happen and getting it all mapped out for you guys here because I agree with you. It's
Look at the wrinkles. Look at all the wrinkles. Look at my saggy eyes.
For men, boys. Otherwise, this would be all right. So, just for men, if they ever want a sponsorship for the show, they got an A grade.
Just wear a hat and grow a beard.
It's crazy. It's crazy to see Gene's videos on Instagram, how gray Gene is. It's nuts to see Gene Ederson how gray. I'm like, holy cow, Gene is completely gray. It's the craziest thing to me to see. Just see these guys how time just keeps on moving on.
Or you own the dye. You own just color it and keep it going. I get crap all the time. I'm like, dude, it doesn't look good on me. Why? I own the fact that I need some color, but at least I have hair. I'm just full of to have hair. So I can rock with that. But yeah, I agree with you. It's funny in the comments, somebody pointing that out from one of our first episodes was like, yeah, no one ever talks about the fact that they also beat lower seeds, and my response back was that's how the tournament goes. You play lower seeds and beat lower seeds, but you still have to beat the 1 seeds.
Yeah.
And so for the YouTube audience that knows that to do the naysaying, which is a part of the world that this is in, I find it hilarious that.
And I'll tell you what,
the games.
South Alabama for a 12 seed, they were no slouch. They were good. Their record that season was unbelievable. Chattanooga was there, but again, Providence. Providence they had Crozier and God Shamgot. Everybody knows who God Shamgot is. You have a guy
more
that has
so than even Austin Crocier, who had a longer NBA career.
Yeah, I mean, Shamgod has a signature, a signature ball handler that everybody knows the Shamgod is. I mean, we have to beat guys. They forget about Providence. Providence was a great team too. I mean, we beat solid teams, and then we beat the three winningest programs in the history of college basketball. Kansas,
with legendary coaches.
Yeah,
legendary coaches.
Oh, we retired Dean Smith. Bobby will talk about that. That was Dean Smith's last game coaching was against us. You got to shake Dean Smith's hand out the door. Pitino,
Rick Pitino, and those are not small orders. Definitely, I agree with you. And what I think is cool about the culture that you're describing, both of you guys, is the connectivity and the consistency. And one of the things that I think has changed so much, there's only a few programs in college basketball that have this today. Namely Gonzaga, because Mark Few has stayed there for as long as he has, where the head coach stays for such an extended period of time that you build that sense of team after team after team, and the connectivity to where the alum are still attached to the program through one head coach that has maintained as kind of the staple and head of the snake. It doesn't happen that way as much in college anymore either, and I think there's an element of that that's missing in the game that would help guys. I mean, granted, I think we would all go back and undeniably say, give us the NIL money these kids make today.
Oh my God,
without question. But that said, I think it's
for the love of basketball only.
Not fooling anybody, Bennett. Not fooling anybody. You'd have taken that money in a heartbeat.
You make so much money down here teaching in Texas. It's insane.
Ben, if you imagine what you would have got after winning a national championship?
Oh, it would have been
jeez.
I mean, more than free pizza. I mean, at least that,
It would have been more than some shoes up the street.
Yeah, exactly. Trade in the basic ones to get some Air Maxes. Yeah.
That's right.
Way to work our own magic. That's for sure.
When you
on down to the next generation.
At the run and the actual championship and celebrating it, and what was the experience like when it happened, and over the years, how is that, your memory of it evolved, right? Wisdom and age would change some of our memories in good and bad ways, but the actual initial, and then how's it evolved?
Well, and what I mean, it's your first year in college, right? You're a freshman, it's like, wow, this was we can do this again. Let's do this again. And I think the following year we were right there doing it again. We had that one horrible game against Utah. Horrible game.
Well, even just the last game of USC where Spanish hit that shot, hit the backboard. We basically almost went undefeated until the last game in overtime.
I remember Justin Russell was playing with him on some travel team back in the day, and I remember they called me. This was a long time ago, and Spanish was Russell's roommate, and he was talking about it. He's like, "You remember that time?" And I'm like, "Dude, I don't need to listen to you Spanish. You guys still suck. It doesn't. I don't care if you beat it. This one game, who cares?" But it's just when it happened, it was such a huge, big moment. But I don't think it really sunk in until a few years later, really how special it was.
It seemed bigger for the town than the players because it was just another game for us. Even we getting on the bus, we're like, who do we play next? That's what we're thinking. But yet we're the best team in the nation. It's we're the best team? Us? Yeah. It really doesn't sink in.
Well, and you know what? Even the next year, Bennett, we were the number one team in the country pretty much all year long.
Yeah.
Right? And again, did that even really sink into us? Really? We're the best team in the country all year, that following year?
We came out and started the whole season. We played against Kansas State. They didn't score for 18 minutes of the second half. So like the second half, they didn't score till the last 2 minutes of the game, and we beat them by 50, 60 points. So we came in with that confidence. That's really what that national championship helped us with.
That second year, we were unreal. We were unbelievably good. And like it's just that one game is that blemish, really. Like that really was the game.
It's that Michigan game.
Yeah. That we just we laid an egg in the term. I mean, I think we get past Utah, we win back-to-back national championships because we'd already beat Carolina and Kentucky. That we'd already beat them, so we already had the confidence. They're like, oh, we're gonna go to beat these guys. There's something to be said about having that upper, that confidence. Like when you beat a team, you can beat them again.
Yep.
But I think it's just as the years have gone on, it kind of sinks into me, like kind of been a touch on like how special it was to like the fans in the city of Tucson. Like, we're down there to the tournament in Indianapolis, and I'm there with my wife and my kids, and we're sitting down back in a hotel we were at Arizona's hotel, and we're eating some food, and a guy comes up to me and he says Quinn Tebbs, right? I said yeah. He says you gave me an autograph on a basketball when I was 12 years old. He's like to see you here was here. He's like, I'm almost in tears, and I'm like, this guy looked like he was older than me, and I'm like, you were 12 years old when I autographed a basketball for you, and you remember who I am? And I have multiple people like, Tebbs, what's up? Good to see you. I'm like, I was a nobody on the team, and how do these people remember me from 30 years ago? It's crazy to me what it meant to those fans in Tucson. And I think that's when it kind of dawns on you like how big it was. It was a big deal for the University of Arizona. It was a big deal for Tucson. It was a huge deal for those people. And so those are the type of things that you just realize, like, wow, this was a big deal for not just me, for a lot of people.
For a lot, the challenge in sports, especially at the collegiate level, right? Like you're kind of always in the what's next. I know I talk about this a lot with like athletes. When you finish, you get into the mentality of focus on the next game, play it, or the next practice, perform your best, look at everything that you didn't do as well as you could, focus on improvement and on to the next. And there's not a lot of stopping and celebrating and enjoying the moment. You're just always focused on the next thing.
Yeah.
And life is a lot harder to live when you're talking about being a father, raising a family. Like, you want to be present and enjoy things, but that mentality doesn't always align, and you have to find a balance after your career ends of like how to be more present and not live in that constant chase the next thing. But it's also what makes you successful in business and life, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of carryover in sports and in work and business, like the things that you learn from sports. I get a lot of crap from my friends and people around me. Like I never had a job until after college. I never had a job because my dad always said, hey, this is your job. Your job is basketball. If you work hard and you get a scholarship, you don't need to get a job and make money. I'll take care of you, but you do your part. That's your job. And so a lot of people, you don't even know how to work and da-da-da. But there's a lot more things I learned from this on how to be successful and how to apply and how to work than what I would have done from, bagging groceries at 12 years old and going on and doing X, Y, and Z and
showing up there every day, playing through the pain. Whether you're sick, you still show up to practice. You still go to class. Because here, we had a job, we just didn't get paid for.
Yeah, no, that's different. No,
film session, practice, shoot around, extra work, like that is way
beyond. You start from 9 and you're not done until 8 o'clock at night. So you're working a 12-hour day.
Did you guys hear that?
A little bit, yeah.
It's over.
Oh, something just went haywire.
Oh, well. Yeah. There we go. Hey, Quinn, remember that, like you were just saying about that one photo of the kid, the autograph? Well, here's a photo of my nephew or my cousin. And then we went to the tournament 30 years later. There he is now. So it was just that whole thing of he was 10 years old in the middle of, that whole NCAA tournament. And now it's 30 years later and he's, a full-grown man with his own 2 kids. So time flies.
My whole system's like screeching at me. I don't know what's going on.
We can hear you fine.
You can hear me fine?
Yeah. There's a little speech. Okay. That's better now. So we you had to make a choice. You had this great experience, and we share a thing in common where like the way things play out in life don't always allow you to stay in one place. Like, I would have never chosen to leave Fresno State. Like, I had such a great experience being, at one point we were top 10, top 12 in the country, playing with a bunch of NBA guys, like seeing a vision. Things change, Park retires, and new staff, the logical situation, as I like to give Bennett a hard time, Bob Burton comes in and with Ray Lopes, and it wasn't a good fit for me at that point with them. I go to UC Davis, and I had my career there, so I saw two places. You ended up leaving Arizona and going back to Weber State and, making a decision family-based. What was it like after having the Arizona experience, all the success, then moving and finishing your career closer to home, back in some places that you mentioned, before the show that some of your, either siblings or cousins played at? Talk a little about that experience and then kind of how that shaped, like, how you finished your career and how you looked at your Arizona experience.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you guys can, I can hardly hear you. Like, my sister was like this high screech pitch. It's like, I apologize. But, it was, when I left Arizona, it was a hard thing for me to do. I had some things going on back at home. I had a family member that got leukemia, and I was engaged to get married, and I broke an engagement, and so my mind kind of got a little swirly on me there that year, and I just felt like I had to leave. But it was a hard thing for me. It was one of those things where, like, for a long time, I always thought about, like, what if, I played the what if game. What if I would have stayed? I had a great time at Weber State. I had a great career. I started there for 2 years, played a ton, was around family, was around friends. Had a lot of, met my current wife when I came back to Utah. And so that's something I would never trade, is meeting her. And she's, my wife, Ivy, is, she's an amazing person. She's my best friend, and she's, mother of my 3 kids. And so, but there was a huge difference between Arizona and Weber State, right? I remember coming back and starting practice at Weber, and I was like, wow, this is different. It's just a different level of talent. Not that the guys at Weber weren't talented. We had a team that played in the NBA for a decade. And Eddie Gill was a point guard, played for a long time in the NBA. Harold Arsenault was a guy that people can remember the show that he did that. He put that 32 on North Carolina in the tournament, beat North Carolina in the NCAA tournament. Great offensive player. But when I came home, I just remember, like, for me, like, the dream was kind of over, right? Like, the dream of my basketball career kind of ended when I left. And so I still worked hard. I played hard, but I didn't, like, work on my individual skill like I did in Arizona. I quit working on my ball handle. I quit working on my shit. I'm like, you know what? I'll show up and I'll practice hard and I'll play hard, but, like, dream's over. I'm back home. And it's one of those choices that even to, like, this day, like, there's still some regret in me for leaving. But again, the great thing about it, though, is the way I'm still treated like royalty at Arizona. I'm treated so well. I'm treated like they don't, I'm not, like, treated like that's the guy that transferred. They don't treat me like, like I'm an outcast transfer. They don't. And that's what I love about the program. It's just, there is no better, like, program of Lute Olson era Arizona program in the country, in my opinion. Like, Coach Olson put together just such a good group of guys.
Even Tommy Lloyd, he's trying to bring that back, and since he knows he's going to be there for a long time and really bringing us back to the Lute Olson fantasy, I try to get you those wins. We'll get you back there in late July, early August.
Yeah, and so it's just, I just have nothing but good things to say and good memories about Arizona. I have nothing bad to say about my experience there, and I never will. And the guys in the program, the players in the program, it is a players program, and that's what Coach Olson kind of, Arizona basketball, a players program. It is a program for players, and it was just, it's such a wonderful and fulfilling experience in my life.
That's a great way to look at it. I know I say it all the time. Like, I look back at, my experience at Davis and UC Davis. I can go back and have that connection. And I look at my, the things that happened for me in Fresno, and I'm like, dude, I was such a small fraction of a year in one season, and to go back and have that kind of connection is one of those things that's special, about college sports and college towns in particular. But you're a part of a national championship team, so that's a totally different level. Like there's an element of like you guys did something that the town will never ever forget, right? Like it's so fundamental. So that's so cool. Well, I know we're getting close to the hour here, and I want to bring kind of forward. So after you finish your career, you moved into family business, and you've been in that business for years. So and the insurance industry. So you mentioned you're married, father of 3. I share that in common. I've got 2 girls and a son, and both had family businesses. I chose not to go into it. It's debatable on whether it was a smart move. You did. So tell us a little. What's your current? What do you do today? And talk a little bit about kind of your post basketball career life.
Yeah, so I'm in the insurance industry. It was a family business. My parents started it, 45 years ago. They retired. We bought it from them 15 years ago. So I'm partners with 2 of my brothers. And I've been doing this for 25 years. And so, I graduated from Weber State. I worked 1 year in my field of study. I was a communications PR guy, so I worked in radio for a year. And my dad was always like, you need to come work for me. You're crazy not to. You need to come work. So, after a year, I came over and started working with family. I've been in the business the longest out of all my siblings. Then my brothers, had an older brother came on after me, then a younger brother came on, and we ended up buying the business. And, here I am 25 years later, own have a successful business that we run, and provides a good comfortable life for me and my family, my kids, allows me to, do things for my kids that I wasn't able to do when I was a child. And so I'll always be grateful for my parents. And again, I've been successful at it because again, I learned some good valuable lessons on effort and hard work through sports and through basketball and through, my kind of journey through what my journey was in basketball. So, basketball has definitely helped in my business life and my ability to be successful and help run a successful business. I was finding my daughter. I was grateful I could take 2 of my children with us to the tournament this year. And, my daughter's 9 years old, and I was with her. And then my oldest son's 21. We were there with my wife, and we were walking around, and meet some different people from Arizona that recognize me stuff. And my daughter, we were walking down the streets of Indianapolis, and I was holding her hand, and she looks up to me and she says, "Dad, are you famous?" It's just like her perspective is so funny. I said, "How do you know?" I said, I'm not famous. I said, maybe one time a long time ago I was semi-famous in a little.
Well, yes, town. I am. You should respect me more. You should listen to me more.
But it was just funny for her to look and say, "Dad, are you famous?" It just like her perspective was really cute.
That's an awesome one. I've had the same one, multiple times. I know my wife, who's was not a sports person, went to her brother, so my now brother-in-law's wedding. Well, we were still dating, and we end up there, and I'm her date, and we're hanging out, and it just so happened to be a group of people from Fresno that were big Bulldog fans, and all of a sudden there's like a swarm of people at this wedding that all remember me, and I'm like, and she's like, "Who the hell are you? Like, how do all these people that you have never, like, there's not supposed to be anyone here but me." And all of my kids, I have a 9-year-old who actually just turned 9 yesterday, daughter, a 11-year-old son, and a 14-year-old daughter who actually she now doesn't think I know anything. As far at this point, like I'm a moron. But my son always asks me, "Dad, are you famous?" Because we run into people all the time that know me and our family, and I'm like, same thing. No, I'm not famous. And yes, I was on TV, and yes, I was on, but no, I'm not famous. I just played a sport that people followed, but the perspective is exactly what you described.
Yeah.
You need to live with it and go with it and keep going with it. It's like everybody asks me and AJ, "Are we brothers?" And they say, "Yeah, we are brothers." So we just
The only
if you ask us if you don't go, we go.
I don't want him running to his friends at school and telling him his dad's famous, and then like getting backlash of it. Like, no, he's not really famous. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's what I don't want him to do.
You know, when we'll go down to some of these things in Tucson, they'll have they'll have reunions and things for us. And I remember last one I went down to with my wife, and I remember going back to her room one night. She's like, I don't understand you. I'm like, she's like, why would you have ever left this? Like, were you stupid? Why did you leave this? I'm like, I know, I get it. I understand what you're saying. I said, I know it's a pretty cool program. I get it. I know.
Yeah, leave it to the wife to give you a hard time on it. That's their job. They got to do that. Keep us on our toes, right? So, I love it, man. Well, Quinn, really, really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And Bennett, as always, man, setting this up. I'm super, super grateful for it. Like I said, I was in high school watching when you guys did this. It was a big inspiration as I was getting ready to go into my college career. I was an 01 high school graduate. So, like, right as I was mapping out my vision of being a two-sport, my idol was Mark Hendrickson at Washington State. Yeah. I wanted to pitch and play basketball, and then I had to pick until Davis. But you guys were one of the teams I watched.
Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question as an outsider. Have you ever seen a team that had more shoe swag than the University of Arizona Wildcats? I mean, you talk about guys that had the great shoe game. Our shoe game was unbelievable. And those uniforms, we had to be the best looking team in the country.
It was swag, and I'm a West Coast guy born in Sacramento. So the fact that it was a Pac-10 team and that it was a Pac-10 team winning it all, yeah, like that was a big deal. Like it wasn't Duke, it wasn't North Carolina, it wasn't East Coast. It was West Coast team winning the title. And then, of course, later years down, Mike Bibby becoming a king and being in the workout circles and seeing Mike a lot and kind of working out. It was like, it just really cool part of my kind of basketball fandom and career that you guys were all a part of. And this guy Bennett would come back in the summertime and we'd work out. He'd drive out to Davis and tear up our bigs and show up our bigs in the summertime. So lots of connections, but really, really appreciate you doing this, Quinn.
Appreciate it, man.
Awesome. Well, that's been an episode. Another one. Bennett, try not to lose your job being a teacher by barking too many orders out of man. We'll figure out how
your job, Bennett.
Yeah.
Say hi, everybody.
And we'll definitely loop back. Quinn, man, it's a pleasure. We'll definitely.
I don't want to talk until we're on video.
Time, my friend.
All right. Thank you. See you guys.
All right, guys.